Hello, ISE digital attendees. I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and welcome to this very special episode of Tech Track Workplace Evolution. We have a great conversation for you today brought to you by ScreenBeam. Thank you again for joining us for some quality AV industry thought leadership. So we've got a lot to unpack. Let's get right to it. What are we discussing today? Well, we're focusing today's conversation on the broader economic recovery that's happening all around us. But more specifically, we're unpacking the AV industry's role in enabling the future of work. And we're joined by three ScreenBeam thought leaders today to help us unpack that journey here for the AV industry and its intersection with the economic recovery. So let's go ahead and introduce our guests. We're joined today by Mike Ellenberger, VP and GM for ScreenBeam Worldwide. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, real pleasure speaking with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. We're also joined by David Sharbit, Director for the EMEA region for ScreenBeam. David, great to have you on. How are you?
Thank you, Daniel. I'm very well. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for joining us. And last but not least, Mr. Brett Roloff, Senior Alliance Manager for the EMEA region for ScreenBeam. Brett, also great to have you on.
Thank you, Daniel. Good to be with you.
So for more context on our topic for the audience, as we look to the future workplace, ensuring a safe and healthy work environment is our first priority. Yet, our economic recovery will require our offices to also be productive havens for a lot of employee collaboration, which is a trend that we saw popularized even before the pandemic. So AV and IT tech managers, integrators, and resellers are going to need to play a critical role in enabling this hybrid workplace to be a productive one and a safe one. So achieving this recovery at scale is going to require a lot of tools to ensure easy collaboration between remote and in-person team members, tools that are simple and flexible without pushing the envelope too far or making it difficult for companies to execute on that vision, as well as execute it in a economical and financial fashion, right? So what does that look like? What should integrators and resellers consider as they maneuver this challenge? That's what we're unpacking today. So Mike, Brett, David, let's go ahead and jump right into the core of our conversation. I want to start here. What would you say is the immediate AV integration pain point for corporate customers mid-economic recovery? And how are we as an industry stepping up to quickly solve those issues? Give us a lay of the land.
Yeah, guys, it's really important. People are coming back into the office. This is really critical for economic recovery, for companies to get, back towards financial health. And they're going to be working hybrid. This has already been fully established. And so very quickly, we need to understand what the work patterns are that are going to support the economic growth of those organizations. So in hybrid, that means that you have employees who will be working part-time from home and then part-time in the office. And one of the biggest matters that's driving people back into the office is being able to come together and collaborate in person. And that's really something that's been missing. While UC, Teams, Zoom, and all the other platforms have been terrific, and we've seen great advancement in that technology over the last year, the reality is nothing replaces that in-person collaboration. But we now have this new challenge, which is we're going to have people in person, and we're also going to have people working together remotely. So we as an industry need to quickly provide solutions that our customers can rapidly deploy, or we can rapidly deploy for our customers that will serve both the on-prem users, okay, and also the remote users simultaneously.
No, that's clearly what's happening now. And to be honest, we have already our role is really to advise our customers, and they are facing that as an emergency in those days because they have some industries, they have no other choice than being already partially back at the office. So those challenges are really happening already on the day-to-day basis. So we're here to help them, fill out two needs. One, immediate needs to solve that problem. And the second need is really to see on the longer term how to develop their meeting rooms to be ready for that kind of need.
What type of culture will emerge in each of these organizations? Will they be more safety conscious about their environment? Will they be more hesitant to meet in confined spaces? All of these things have to be taken into consideration, and we have to, as an industry, we have to find ways to accommodate that in our AV solutions.
So let's expand on that transition back to the workplace, because as we transition back to the workplace, a lot of companies are going to have to reckon with the investments that they've made during COVID and better understand how we transition those for a long-term future. So I'm curious, if companies are going to maintain this hybrid work model for the foreseeable future, how do you ensure that the solutions deployed today continue to serve the company's changing needs in the future? Basically, how do you integrate them in a way that is necessarily adaptive to future changes?
Yeah, I mean, the question really is how do you avoid putting a Band-Aid on a problem? And how do you start to develop a technology stack for your customers, for your company, that's going to make a lot of sense. And if you think about it, pre-COVID, there were a lot of projects in the pipeline for AV integrators and AV professionals, and a lot of those projects just simply got paused. And now as we're coming back, the question is do we just resume those projects and just keep moving business as usual, or do we really take the needs of the business into consideration and accelerate in certain areas? But as we accelerate, let's make sure that we're not going to put our future plans in jeopardy because, again, we all do plan on having this full recovery, full economic recovery. And, we don't want to just throw a lot of money at something for a short-term solution. And so really bringing technologies in, like the technology that ScreenBeam offers, which will enable the contactless meeting areas with wireless presentation and wireless display, which now enables unified communications for hybrid meetings, which is a huge point, really does fit in, and it fits in immediately now as a single box solution, if that's what you need in your rooms. And then later on down the road, as we start to do more build out, it continues to fit in because it integrates into all these different places.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also what we are here for. We were talking about advising customers, and immediately we are here to solve their immediate problem, adapting to what they already have in that meeting room. We are not here to tell them you have to get rid of everything you already have on hands. We are here to be something, as flexible as it could be. And that's why we always, pay attention to be an adaptive solution for current issues and future issues.
David, hits another really important tone. And, this isn't a commercial for ScreenBeam, guys. This is really, us participating in the industry. But the key thing is providing flexibility. That's really, really important today. And so as you start to consider what solutions you're going to deploy, if you're an end customer or if you're an integrator and you're thinking about what you're going to deploy for your customers, keep flexibility in mind. You're going to need it. Okay. Things are going to change and you're going to need to have that level of flexibility. It may come down to various types of AV equipment, but also consider the codecs that are being used in the conference room for video conferencing, because that need is going to change. There's still a lot to contend with in the marketplace with regards to how do you enable that technology in the room and make it flexible enough so that people can come in and have great in-room meetings, but also they can communicate on any codec that they want to. That's a challenge that the industry is facing right now, and we need to solve that for our customers. We can't leave it up to them.
And, I think you bring up a good point there, emphasizing putting the customer experience first and making both the integration process as well as the use of the technology one that is straightforward and simple. I think to that point, I think it's fair to say many AV projects can be very complicated since there's so much intersecting hardware and software, a lot of moving pieces around the use, maximizing the use, and maintaining that technology. So I'm curious how you find that balance, right? How can we as an industry eliminate some of the complexity to enable rapid solution deployment and ease of use without oversimplifying the process and the product so much that it creates issues down the roads or ends up sort of shooting the product in the foot, basically?
Yeah, I mean, eliminating complexity is important from an end user experience, right? We need to do everything in the background to make it so that when you walk into a room and you're using AV technology, that, there's not a whole lot of learning curve. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do right now is we want to help welcome employees back into facilities, get them collaborating, get them working together, versus sending them off to training classes on how to use various types of equipment that are being deployed in meeting spaces. And really, the message is just because we're eliminating complexity in these rooms doesn't mean that we don't bring value add as an industry to our customers. It just means that their needs have changed. They need solutions that can be rapidly deployed very, very quickly, and they need to be very easy to use. They need to be things that are just intuitive, that work naturally when users come into meeting spaces, when they join UC meetings. All that just has to be done very naturally. We need to eliminate the curve there.
And sometimes it's not just a matter of reducing complexity, but it's eliminating legacy habits. I mean, think about it this way, Daniel. Imagine if you put out there a scenario where everyone came to a meeting room, sat down with their laptop, and reached for Ethernet cables to plug in to have network connectivity. Nobody thinks about ubiquitous Wi-Fi anywhere in the building. It's just a given. Yet they're perfectly happy to trade off an HDMI cable or bounce back and forth between the presenter chair and other places in the room, and chew up that time that's valuable for collaborating and meeting. So rather than just thinking about it as reducing complexity, I mean, we are simplifying the experience to magnify the key components of why people are there to begin with.
One of the biggest problems that we've been challenging for the last several years for customers, especially corporate customers, was productivity, was the big loss that companies were experiencing in just how long it took to get meetings started. And so that technology has been deployed. It continues to get deployed. It's very easy to use. We need to continue to keep that in mind because we don't want to compromise productivity while we make this transition back into the workplace. But we also now have another challenge: is we need to stack in the benefits of collaboration, of contactless for safety, bringing unified communications into the mix, because again, we're going to be working in a hybrid mode. That's the key.
Mike, you're teeing me up perfectly here. That's really the next thing I wanted to bring up is, the hybridized work model presents some challenges around collaboration and how to maximize that experience for the end user. And so I think I think it's become clear that there are two sides to this hybrid work model equation. We've got people in the office working together, and then people working remotely who are also working with people in the office. And so there's in-person collaboration and also remote collaboration that need to happen not only in their own silos, but also simultaneously. So what are some of the challenges you've seen in unifying the experiences without compromising one or the other? Break down that balance for us.
Well, I think there's a giant pitfall out there in the market, and we need to understand how to navigate it. Where it's very easy to choose a solution and deploy a solution that solves half the problem but doesn't solve the other half of the problem. So you have to look at it holistically. And Daniel, you tee it up perfectly. Is you've got users in the office space and you've got users remotely, and we need to create equally great experiences for these customers. So getting yourself into a solution where you're fully locked into something singular, okay, like singularly being locked into a video conferencing codec in a conference room, may not be the right solution for your organization, because a lot of times, you may be a Teams shop or a Zoom shop or some other shop, but the people that you're talking to aren't, or you may be joining meetings that aren't originated from your organization, but from a vendor or a partner, and they're sending out invites, to connect on a different service. And so if that were the case and you were in a room, you would be largely locked out from connecting with that service. So having that flexibility is incredibly important. And so thinking about that from a industry perspective, again, we come back to this level of flexibility. Let's be careful not to just jump on, a bandwagon and then create these problems down the road. And these are things that we're hearing from customers right now. There's a lot of solutions that are out there in the market that offer tremendous potential. And when you look at the specs for these systems, it looks like they can really do everything. But the reality of it is that they can only be deployed in a very singular way. And once you do that and you deploy these systems in a very singular way, there's no way that a user can actually come in and reconfigure it. It really is an IT switchover to get it to go from one codec to another codec to another codec. So again, flexibility is important. Of course, I'm referring to video conferencing here. And so that really considers the remote participants. And again, you can't just consider the remote participants. And because of COVID-19 and this year plus of time that we've spent working at home and living on video conferencing, it seems like that's the obvious solution. Let's just make that happen. But the reality is our challenge is to make it happen for people coming back into offices working together. The whole goal here is economic recovery. And the way that we do that, the way that we help companies is we help them bring their people back together and really help support their business and their initiatives. So we can't leave out the people that are actually coming back into the office. That would be a tragedy.
Yes, it would definitely be a misstep there. So I'd like to hear from everyone on this next question, even just briefly. But where do you see some of the most exciting innovation to achieve that vision and that balance of creating a collaborative workspace that takes both parties into account, the in-person and the remote worker? And how have you seen large corporations or businesses small or large push the envelope in the use of their AV to make this happen? Give us your favorite examples or ones that you think really stands out.
Everyone is giving advice those days, so they need to rely on someone that really knows, and someone that really advises a solution that fits for that customer. Because unfortunately, it's not, or fortunately, it's not the same solution for every customer. And this is where we really want to be sitting in the shoes and in the seat of the customer we are working with, because every customer has its own solution, and that's really continuing the flexibility we mentioned earlier during that conversation, because it doesn't fit for everyone the same answer. So listening to the customer is key, and listening to what users will be using when they'll be back at the office as well.
We are very much in a space of customized solutions for organizations that are coming back together in very different ways. We can't know for certain that the way they carried on business prior to now is the way that it will move. So we need to provide solutions that are somewhat dynamic, that they can reconfigure to meet the needs of that organization as they figure out what is the right balance for this hybrid work environment. What percentage is going to be in the meeting room versus what's going to be remotely, and ensuring that we as an industry provide all of the right pieces for any organization to customize and use those building blocks to create an experience that's going to foster collaborations at as close to, if not more than the level they were used to begin with.
At the end of the day, our job, our role as AV professionals is to delight people and to create experiences and to help bring people together. And we have a whole bag of tricks when it comes to great technologies that are here now. We're not really waiting for a technology to solve these problems. These technologies are available today, and we're able to put them together and make them easy for customers to use. But it really is important that we ask those tough questions. And so my recommendation is equip your sales team, if you're an AV integrator, with a list of questions to talk to customers about, and then if the customer comes in and says, look, I'm really looking for this specific solution, have a list of questions that starts to help them probe to ensure that, that's in fact really what they're going to need. It's really just a matter of a conversation that could take place over, a half an hour or an hour with that customer. But then the outcome is going to be coming back with a recommendation that's going to be a great fit, and it's going to ensure that the customer gets exactly what they need.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about having that clear vision of how this project is going to assist and expand the reach of your company, and for the integrators out there working with customers to help them find that vision for themselves and then integrate things at scale in an economical fashion in a way that is adaptive to any future changes. Thank you to our three ScreenBeam guests. Again, we were joined by Mike Ellenberger, VP and GM for ScreenBeam Worldwide, David Sharbit, Director for the EMEA region for ScreenBeam, and Brett Roloff, Senior Alliance Manager for the EMEA region with ScreenBeam. Thank you to all three of you, Mike, David, Brett. It's really been a pleasure. We'll chat again soon.
Excellent.
And thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you head to our website, screenbeam.com, for more information on some of the technologies and strategies we broke down today. I'm Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and we'll catch you next time.